Okay, welcome to the WestMarch Board of Directors, August 2023. We're going to call this to order, and Jose is going to do the roll call.
Brian,
What?
is Brian present?
Yes.
Rose,
Here.
Paul.
Paul is not here
Okay.
at the moment. We hope that he will be.
Understood. Andy,
Here.
and I am present as well. And then Victoria.
Victoria is hopeful to be here. She is not at the moment.
Understood. Okay. And then let me take the rest of the attendance.
And then the other two that you need to call and check on are Christian
Jamie.
and Cindy.
Oh, Christian, Cindy. Oh, okay. Cool.
We have not heard
They are
from...
technically part of the BoD.
Yeah.
Got
We
it.
have
Oh,
not
yes.
heard from Cindy or Christian. They are not here yet. They potentially will be.
Cindy and Christian. Understood. Okay.
Did you say we haven't heard from Cindy? Because I actually have her number.
I have
I
texted her and I have messaged her on Facebook. I expect that we will get a response before the end of the day.
Okay. No worries.
Okay. And then we have some guests as well after we just did that one, which is Jamie, which is Valen, Benjamin, and then Frankie Demento, which Dagger, correct?
Mhm.
Eric, Megan. Is there two Megans?
There
Megan,
could be.
Yeah, I go by Meg.
Meg. Sorry, my bad. Meg. And then yeah, so Meg. Meg, how do you say the last name?
It looks scary, but it's really not. It's pronounced earwicker.
Okay, I was thinking that, but I didn't want to mess up. Got it. Meg Earwicker. And then Megan Faye. Or Fa?
Yes, I am
That
here.
is the same individual.
Oh, okay.
Wait, is that the same individual?
No, there
No.
seems to be two Megans.
My apologies.
So-
Nope, never mind.
I'm not sure which Megans these are, but at SG right now we have 4 Megans and 3 Laurens.
It's a painfully common name, yes.
Alrighty. And then Benjamin Walker as well. And then Eric. Yeah, Eric. And then that's everyone here right now.
Eric, Megan, membership.
All right, Megan. Thank you. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for the roll call. I appreciate it very much. We are going to go ahead and go through the last minutes of the July meeting. Is everybody okay with going through the last minutes of July meeting? Do I have a second? Literally anybody. Come on.
I would say
Second.
yes, but
There
I'm
we
not.
go.
I'm not a member.
All I heard was somebody saying yes, so we're moving forward. True to form, here we are in August, and I'm still being spelled brain. Thank you for that, Jose.
I'm sorry.
These are the individuals that are present. That's fine. Cindy and the Kingdom Monarch Christian were unfortunately able to make it. Frankie just shows up all the time. Thank you, Frankie. I appreciate that. Brain once again approved the minutes. Thank you for that. Chicken or Jose talked about an opportunity for selling WestMarch merchandise with Bonfire. That was met very favorably, and we expect to test it out at Feast of the Gods. We got a response from Amtgard International, which was one of the fingers. We will not talk about which one it was. We talked about making a bilingual waiver. It is being worked on, and we need to have legal go over it because, unfortunately, Google Translate sometimes messes things up. We decided to declare war on Raven's Roost because we couldn't get in contact with them. If you see anybody who is a member of Raven's Roost, please citizens arrest. Bilingual flyer and waiver update. That, I don't know why that's there twice. It's probably Brain's fault. Digital waivers, we decided to go with Smart Waiver, and we have submitted that for an all thing. We talked about trademarking the WestMarch name. That also has been submitted for an all thing. The Hawaii Park, we said, yes, we would love to go visit Hawaii, and so we don't care. They are now a member of WestMarch. And then we adjourned the meeting. That is what we did. Does anybody have any questions about the minutes from July?
Nope.
Love it. Can we have a second to move on to the August agenda?
Second.
Thank you. I love it. All right. So we have had several individuals at several parks, and I am not mentioning names because they had not said, yes, you can use my name in bringing this up. But there was a genuine concern from multiple individuals that were not affiliated and not communicating with each other, and said that WestMarch needs to focus on diversity and inclusion. Basically, non-cisgendered males or individuals who identify as such, and I'm going to tell you right now that I am not the most qualified person to talk about this, so if I mess up the lingo or the vernacular, there is a reason why I am going to pass off this conversation to much more qualified individuals, some of which I recommended to be in this meeting. So I think this is a very real issue. I think this is something we very much need to talk about. This meeting is being recorded, and I am going to force feed this to every member of WestMarch and encourage them very strongly to take this conversation to heart. So we have a couple people who have chosen to be here on their own personal time when they should be relaxing, watching reruns of Friends and drinking a rosé. Is there anybody who would like to speak up about the question that I'm about to pose? What can WestMarch do to increase diversity and inclusion in WestMarch at the park level and at the kingdom level? Because we have individuals asking why representation is so much lower than other LARPs and other social groups. I will call on people if it's silent.
Hold on, I have a Scorch here with me, and I think they have some words. You don't have to.
That sounds wonderful.
Scorch is a very awesome person to talk about diversity, considering they are a trans, bisexual, polyamorous nerd.
What I was going, I feel like our community is diverse enough, not diverse enough like there's too much, but I don't feel like we're doing badly when it comes to queer representation. But there's definitely a lack of racial diversity, and I feel like that's not really something that white people should be giving answers on. I feel like these are questions we should be asking people of color that are already in the organization. Is there anything that is making it hostile or uncomfortable? Are there things being said or done? Are they reporting incidences and they're being waved away because they don't feel that important? These are the kind of questions I feel like we should be asking people of color that are already in WestMarch or that have existed in WestMarch at different points in time, whether they quit or moved into another game.
I love it. And that's a wonderful point, whether they left or moved into another game. I think that's very important because I think potentially we are missing the boat on some recruitment due to actions within our organization. I was lucky enough to have a conversation with Faye, Lady Faye, who persona real name is of course Megan. Megan, can I throw you on the spot to have you talk about your vast experiences as an individual who doesn't identify as a cisgendered male, of course, and your experience on the battlefield?
Sure. Let's see. Vast experience. It sounds painful, but yes, I have been playing Amtgard for 19 or 20 years, something like that. So a lot of what I covered the other day was, you know, I like fighting. That's an important part of Amtgard to me. And in my experience, I guess a couple of things have come up consistently. At my home park, where everybody knows me, where we actually have a pretty decent split between male and female and a fair number of transgender non-binary folks as well. I don't have a lot of problems with our standard crew. They kind of know what's up. They're not going to be a problem for me. New players at our park or newer players that I encounter at events are where I'm most likely to have a bad interaction. And this is not, by all means, not every single person, by all means, not every single event, but consistent enough that I pay attention to it when I am going places at this point. What I'll experience is I'm, on a ditch line or something, I square up with someone who I haven't fought before, who's a guy, and we have a fight. I beat them, potentially. And then next fight, they come around really gunning for me. And if I prevail through that fight, then we're really trying to draw blood at that point. I think there can be a real attitude with men especially, that's just sort of been drilled into them by our society that like they are bigger and stronger and tougher and they will prevail in a fight. And that's not necessarily true when the experience level is different. And it's especially not true in Amtgard, where honestly speed and precision is more important than strength. So that's where I've had a consistent problem in the past in terms of fighting. And what I'd said in my conversation previously with Brian is the good news is there's a pretty easy fix for this sort of thing, which is pay attention. Whether you're at your home park or at an event or wherever, if you see someone starting to get too heated, and it doesn't matter if it's with a woman, with a trans person, anybody, if you see someone getting too heated on a battlefield, like make it your problems. Pull that person aside and say, hey, what's going on? What seems to be the difficulty? And like, make them process what they're doing, make them ask some questions, make them think about it. And if you genuinely find that you have a person who is consistently going after people who are smaller than them, or that they think they can beat up, that probably is a person we don't really want to have around. They're probably hurting the membership of their group and of the kingdom in general. That's the Cliff Notes version.
I love it very much. I took over a page of notes from our conversation, and one of the most valuable things that I saw that Scorch, he also posted on, he said that if you're the first person of color or creed or race or gender to show up to a park, that's daunting because you don't know, am I going to have a hard time here? Are you brand new to Amtgard? And perhaps a minority subculture, a minority individual, a minority who identifies differently, it's going to scare people off. So how can we be supportive? And you said, and Megan, you just hit the nail on the head here. Stereotype, where is it? Oh my God, I wrote too many notes. Call each other on a culture of awareness. Train other people to pay attention and speak up. Make people feel comfortable. Have a new person when you have a new person, be welcoming. Don't scare them off. Encourage people to overcome the stereotype of you can hit people and it's okay. And I loved that. Oh, and I fell into a terrible stereotype. I truly did. Stereotype of service-oriented positions for people who don't want to be on the field. The field is not just for cisgendered males. The field is for everybody who wants to pick up a sword or a shield or a spear and get out there. And I thought that was really wonderful. Well, thank you for that, Megan. If you have anything else to say, please, this is an open forum. Otherwise, we're going to go to the next Megan.
Go ahead. I need to get my dinner.
Thank you so much for showing up. Megan Earwicker.
Yes.
You were kind enough to join us at Bard Fighter Practice, if memory serves. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Amazing. Thank you so much for showing up. Please, with the same question, I can revisit it if you want, but I believe as an individual who is newer to our LARP, I would love to hear your first thoughts and first experiences about our organization, if you felt welcomed, and what suggestions you would make for us.
Well, you and I actually had a conversation about this, and then I got a little excited and I made a PowerPoint.
I have enabled sharing if you would like to share your screen.
Okay, cool. All right. It's a short PowerPoint, I promise everybody.
Wow.
All right. So mostly you and I talked kind of more about like new players that aren't really familiar, or like more female players. Though I do also fall in the LGBT community. But so basically my first impressions as being somebody who is not familiar with this at all and kind of like searched you guys out is that there is a huge problem with information. So the information is extremely difficult to find. I had to like look for really like ridiculously long time. I was very determined to find information about you guys, and it honestly was very difficult to do so. As well as once you do find any information, it's either like really confusing, or it's just like so saturated with jargon that if you don't know what it is, it's very like it's too confusing. So I guess like things that I kind of thought might help is that like traditionally in media, when this is kind of shown, it's referred to as LARPing. So if you somehow could add that to your Google algorithm so that when it shows up in websites and things like that, that it would show up when it's searched for, because I did like when I looked for it, I looked for LARPing near me, and it was very difficult to find any information. I got a lot of national websites, things that were just not relevant, and I really had to dig for it. As well as like information just for like the local area. I think what would be a really great addition would be is each like individual like local area had an Instagram that was very clear and concise, because not only are you going to be dealing with people that aren't familiar with this whole thing, but you're going to be dealing with a lot of parents of children. And the parents really want the information to be as clear and understandable as possible. So I think like a local Instagram might be a good idea to kind of talk about events and kind of entice people to come, as well as maybe at like events or things, if you guys had like a very simple like trifold leaflet that had some information, I think that would be really helpful, that you could like pass out to people or have so that people could look at in their own time or whatever. As well as I was thinking maybe like some additional recruitment, because I feel like a lot of people, if they're not raised from like very young into this, they're not really going to know too much about it. So if maybe you went for like high schools or colleges, like if they have D&D groups or things like that, if you maybe went and kind of said like, hey, can we come and talk to everybody today? Something like that. So those were just some ideas that I kind of thought of. But for me, yeah, information is kind of was very difficult to find and to understand. And then I was thinking kind of the two types of people that are going to be interested in something like this is either going to be people that, like I said, grew up with the like the tabletop games or played a lot of video games or whatever, and they're more interested in the actual live action aspect of it. And then you're probably going to have more people that went to like Renaissance fairs that are going to be like more interested in like an extended Renaissance fair and the cosplay aspect. And those are probably going to be the two types of people that are going to be most interested in a group like this. And I think a lot of women, this is obviously not like a blanket statement, but I feel like a lot of women are going to fall into the cosplay interest category a little bit more than they would necessarily in the tabletop. So I was thinking like two really good ways to kind of increase and retain that kind of membership is to focus on character development and investment, as well as strengthening and having a more involved community. So for the character development and investment, I was thinking it's really important to have character creation be like a big thing. Like maybe community gets together and does character creation for a new player, or there's like a website to walk them through it, or somebody from the group actually walks them through it. If you make character creation a big thing, they get more involved in creating their character. As well as if you encourage them to dress as their character at events, it would make them more invested in their character and want to kind of participate more, level up their character, things like that. As well as people might not want to do the actual combat aspect. So if you have alternative forms of level advancement in the beginning, people are more likely to get invested into the leveling up aspect to then move into the combat to do some form of leveling up through combat. But if you kind of have more of a transitional thing, like say they're a rogue or something like that, if maybe like there's like a lock picking leveling up, like they could like learn the lock picking skill in real life and then like use that to get leveling up points, I think you would have a better time of having people transition more that are not familiar with the combat or the live action to go from that to the actual combat and be more invested in their character and the character development and the leveling up and everything like that. And then on the other side was strengthening and having a more involved community. So I think like people that have like more of a invested community are more likely to go, especially if you aren't interested in the combat. If there's more activities, you can get invested into the community and then end up getting more invested in the combat. So if you would obviously need to have family friendly, because a lot of the people that are going to be joining are going to be like teenagers, and even some older kids that are still under 21, as well as to kind of like retain and kind of build community with the adults. You should have 21 plus events as well. Again, the themed parties, having people dress in character would, I think, make people more interested and kind of make it more fun. As well as people that don't want to do the combat, if you have some more simultaneous activities during the like combat meetups or whatever, so that people can kind of do more things. More casual hangouts that don't have to be necessarily like this event based or dressed up or whatever, just casual hangouts. As well as I think a newbie crash course might be really good, because I mean, I found the rule book and I opened it and it was 30 pages of jargon and I was like, oh my God. And so it was just, I think if you have like a newbie crash course and you kind of teach them like the basics of the combat, you teach them the basics of character creation, of character leveling up and development, as well as like, I know that there's a lot of specific rules about what the weapons and the things you can wear are allowed to be. And so if you teach them things like that, or if you teach them skills, like different combat skills or like archery or sword fighting and things like that, I think that would get them more involved. They would feel more welcomed and interested in the community. And then another thing I was thinking about, I don't know how practical this is, but one of the things that strengthens communities a lot is nationalism. So if there was like some form of like large event that each kind of local area could get together as in like a nation and like make, if they had something that they were presenting or fighting for or showcasing or something like that at this event that everyone could kind of work towards together before the event, and like nationally like proud show whatever they were working on or something like that. And something that I kind of thought might be interesting was like a weekend event, because a lot of people would be traveling. So if you make it more like a longer thing, it might get more people to go, like a tournament that ends with like a ball and a coronation or something like that. And then as well for like an event like that, pricing definitely has to be not that expensive, so you get more people to go, as well as I think having a discount if you are a member of like a local group would also make them feel more like community and invested in things like that. And then that's it. That's the end of my PowerPoint presentation.
Megan, can you, and not today or anything of that nature, please email me a copy of that PowerPoint if you are comfortable with that. I appreciate it very much. That was great. And I will say that, Megan, how many times have you been out to an Amtgard related event? I believe it's under 5, right?
It is. I've been to 2 events.
And so several of us here have been playing, like Megan mentioned, she'd been here, we'll just say Megan 1, has been here for 19 years. And we have lots of other individuals who've been playing for a long time. And some of the things you touched on, you hit the nail on the head. Like, I can't find that information. So person A can say, we do that already. And person B can say, well, if our prospective new members can't find it, how do they know that we're doing? And so this information is so incredibly valuable, and I appreciate it so much. Have you felt comfortable in the small amount of times you've been here? Do you feel accepted as a member of the LGBT community? Do you feel accepted as a new member who doesn't know anybody? Is there something that you might like to add in that capacity?
Yeah, I mean,
okay if you don't.
Yeah, everyone's very welcoming. And I think that I am naturally a very extroverted and gregarious person. And I think if I wasn't, the difficulty in finding information and kind of not having any sort of like newbie crash courses or anything like that, I think would be intimidating to the point, like if I had more social anxiety, that I probably would not have continued going. And I mean, I wasn't able to go to a lot of events, mostly just due to other reasons. But I just think that, yeah, I think if for people that maybe don't feel so comfortable, like finding things on their own, and like, cause I had to like find this on my own and then just like show up on my own and just see what happened. And I think for people that maybe don't feel very comfortable doing that, I think it would be very difficult for them to do so. I mean, everyone was very welcoming, but I think just the social anxiety aspect of that is probably a little scarier, because there's just not enough information for you to feel informed and comfortable going into the event.
I will also say that this is one example of how Amtgard as a whole is really not doing well with events, because we absolutely have those. Those are like one of the things she was absolutely describing. And like people who have been in Amtgard for years have trouble finding information on them. So like, I know it's something that I've talked about on the main like national Amtgard page, that like events for Amtgard are not advertised well, and like unless you know they're happening, it's really hard to like find out anything about them. And like she was saying, like that's something that can really pull lands together, is like going to events and stuff like that. So the fact that they're like so hard to find information on that she didn't even come across any of it is like bad, especially as it's our main like source of income for Amtgard.
Rose, I've been watching, I've been going through some digital media, and I found a video of you fighting Tremere and Arthur from 2008. And I think that kind of puts into perspective how long you've been doing this. And so I appreciate that feedback, because you exactly hit the mold of what we're trying to do as opposed to what people are seeing. And so this conversation, I think, is very valuable. And I appreciate that feedback very much. We have an open floor at the moment. Does anybody else want to talk about diversity and inclusion in regards to recruitment in WestMarch, which I think is the most important topic that we're probably going to talk about all year?
Oh, God. So I am Jamie Clutter, or Valen. I have been playing LARPing since I was born. Man with a dagger in my hand as a chew toy. Anyway, I have experienced a lot of disregard for my size as a woman, whether it be my opinion, my how do I word this? Like my suggestions, or my expertise is looked over a lot. I have not experienced it out here in WestMarch as much. And I think it is more of a personal individual problem rather than a WestMarch problem. But because it is the individuals that are playing Amtgard, it thus makes it a problem. Paying attention is a big one, especially for individuals who are cis males, because unfortunately at the end of the day, you guys are going to be what makes the difference here. Because those of us who experience any kind of discrimination, whether it's being a woman, being a person of color, being, trans, LGBT, what have you, those people are not going to listen to us. The people they're going to listen to and make changes with are the people who currently are listened to, if that makes sense.
It absolutely does, Jamie. Please, you still have the floor if you'd like to talk. We're going to have Eric speak next, and then Titan, and then I don't know if Jody wants to jump in.
Really quick piggyback what Valen said. So at the end of everything that Valen said, I completely agree with, but to just kind of 1-2 punch it home, at that point, it's the responsibility of the people that are already being listened to, the cis white men, to not come in and try and save people, but to amplify the voices that are already there. No, you're going to listen to them or repeat what they said and say, this person, that was their idea. Valen just said this, but stating the idea first, getting their affirmations, like, you think that's a good idea? Good. Valen has good ideas. I got that from her. However you want to phrase it, I think that's going to be the way to go, because that's the difference between being an ally and being a white savior.
Anyway, I will mute now, and the next person can go.
I've never heard white savior before. That's freaking awesome. Eric, please take the floor. After that, we're going to have Titan, and then if Jody wants to speak.
Right on. Thank you. I'll be real quick. I want to kind of speak first on some positives because I'm very new and I brought my son and my daughter and my wife to come fight at the park based off of Reddit we saw, and we came out and it was pretty amazing how quickly we were kind of brought into the circle. People walked up to us. We didn't have to walk up to them. Like Rose and Spud were the first people to like invite us into the circle, and that was really awesome. And then especially for my son, it was what kind of draw him in and kept him in was the individual attention he got. Now, it kind of was from the cis white males, you know, who kind of came after him and put him under their wing and so forth. So one of the things that we do in like the union I belong to is we have caucuses or like positions on the board of directors, like a diversity position. No, you know, that way it's not just a conversation we have once and then we walk away from it or have once in a while, but it's like ingrained into the structure. And that way everybody, no matter what they look like or come into, has someone who can meet them and invite them into the circle and kind of make them feel like a member. Because like I said, I think that was the most important thing to keep my 8-year-old son involved was he made friends. He had people who were encouraging him. And even when he was losing and getting killed over and over again, they were picking him up and teaching him things. And I think, you know, that's just such an important feature of this. So I want to speak positively about what my experience was, but I definitely acknowledge that that's not everybody's experience. So appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Eric. That's freaking great because like you said, if you brought your daughter and your spouse and your son out and you out, that's 4 people. And for an organization that's looking to increase numbers, that's the type of experience we want to give. And obviously, we want to make sure that everybody has that experience.
Yeah, just to follow up. So like, because my daughter didn't really get involved. She didn't feel connected right away because she just wasn't as into the fighting, but she loved the LARPing, you know, she loves dressing up and that aspect. And if there was maybe more going on park days outside of just the fighting for like different people who maybe aren't there just to fight, but to experience the LARPing, experience the community, then maybe we would have more of the kind of color aspect that people talk about.
We can make some things. Something to think about.
That's true. And Cindy is one of the top individuals for making things. And like Megan did with her amazing PowerPoint, they suggested, of course, that we expand beyond just fighting on the field, which we can do, but we do not want to pigeonhole or compartmentalize people based upon their perceived value, and instead allow them to choose where they want to participate. I'm sewing sword covers. I've never in my whole life would ever thought I would have sewn a sword cover. And so, yeah, there we go. Titan, are you still here?
Yes.
All
I'm
right.
here.
Thank you, Titan. That was enough. All right. So we're going to move on. No, I'm just kidding. Titan, thank you for being here. You have been playing for, I believe it is 4 to 5 months. We would like to have your experience because you are on the field getting hit, hitting back, doing very well. What if, and I don't want to prompt in a question in any capacity, I would just like to hear your experience as a young individual in a new environment. What have been the successes? What have been the failings? What are we doing right? And what can we improve upon?
Okay. Um, Ever since I first started going to SG, they were never um they never made me feel like I was disincluded or made me feel like a less worthy opponent. I wasn't treated like any I was treated I'm so sorry.
Don't be sorry. You have the floor. Nobody's going to interrupt you except me, apparently.
Okay. I wasn't treated like I was treated like any other person. I quickly became part of the family. When I was fighting experienced players, they never made me feel like I was um they would let me know what I could differently and what I could have instead of just saying I was doing something wrong. They helped me learn quickly with the guidance of Dragoff and the support of Sumo. Me and brother have accomplished so much, and it's only the beginning. And yeah.
No, that's great. What's
and
been the biggest obstacle, if anything, that you've experienced on the battlefield in terms of taking hits, giving hits, being on a team, trying something new?
I feel like I'm getting tougher and I can take hits more. Rather than when I first started going, I was very scared of getting hit, and now I can. Thanks for Jerkoff hitting me in the face so much. And yeah, I just they're very welcoming.
That's awesome to hear. We are going to be talking about Dragoth hitting people in the face in this meeting. It's been a hotly contested issue, unfortunately.
Now, Titan, could I ask you a question?
Yes.
What
Of course.
what things in particular helped you feel included and welcome? Like what I know you said everybody's stepping up and helping you, but was there anything that you felt helped more than others, or anything that you wish you'd gotten that, you know, it wasn't a killer of the deal that it didn't happen, but anything that you wish would have happened?
I think that since they didn't go easy on me because I was a girl, it helped me a lot of what I was learning and what they were teaching me.
So starting off easy on you so that you could ease your way in and learn?
Yes.
Okay.
Instead of going full speed and not letting me learn anything. Because them teaching me what I could do better and learning from it instead of just going all hardcore made me want to come back and learn more.
Great. Is there anything else you feel like you're missing, or?
No.
Okay.
No, that's great, Titan. That's an absolute success story. And I will say that your family comes out as well. So it's not just you. Not only do you have the support of people on the field, of course, but you also have the support of family who also wants to be there. And again, just like persona named Magneto mentioned, his family comes out because they feel supported as well. So that's great. Obviously, there's going to be issues that are going to be, not perfect for everybody, but it's nice to hear some success stories. So thank you for that. Does anybody else, and according to the chat, we don't have anybody else who wants to speak at the moment. Does anybody else want to speak about diversity and inclusion in regards to recruitment and retention within WestMarch? Jody, thank you so much for volunteering. You are a savvy veteran, a belted veteran. Thank you for taking the floor, and I will shut up.
That's fine. Thanks for inviting me. I wasn't sure when I first got in because I was late joining, so I apologize. Really kind of what diversity, inclusion, I thought it was going to be diversity and inclusion, but then when I was listening, it's in regard to recruitment. So I'm not sure personally that I'm as good an example of reaching out and making people feel welcome as Yurik was. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you why I'm still here. My son learned about Amtgard and he was like 11, I think, and he wanted to go try it out. And there was Thor's Refuge 10 minutes away, so we went. And when we showed up, there was people sitting around, and it was Lady T, and Colin came up to me and talked to me. Yurik and Nikita came up to me and talked to me, and it wasn't all about fighting. Since I've been there for a while, I've seen there's the fighting group that really wants to foster that aspect more of WestMarch, but I don't fight. But there was something for my son who wanted to go out and do that. But there was something for me sitting in Nirvana that I realized that I can sew. I have a sewing machine. My mom taught me how to sew. Hey, you can do this. And that really, the arts and sciences people, Alana and was integral as well. They kind of like enveloped me and held me and said, hey, we have these other things that you can do. And so that gave me something to do, as well as, having my son doing the fighting. And the other thing that happened for us was Yurik, well, he took Little Monkey under his wing, but hey, we are having a caravan in the Beast to go to Crimsonwood to this event. Do you want to come with us? And that was like a major, that's like a big experience for both of us, but it created a sense of camaraderie and family, and we were included. And it was not only at our local park, but it's, hey, let's go as a group and you're included to other parks. And we met people from other parks. It created kind of a network so that when we finally ended up going to events, it wasn't just like hundreds of people and I didn't know anybody. We had been offered and invited and introduced because of someone who was willing to give us rides and reach out and mentor us into what Amtgard was, and all of the little nuances of you can sew, you can make weapons, you can fight, you can cook, you can help, serve, and there's all of these things that you can do. And we were welcome to find our niche within WestMarch on where we were comfortable, who we were comfortable with, and we were encouraged to contribute, and we were valued for our contributions as people, as artisans, as fighters. And I really think that Yurik at that time and that whole community at Thor's Refuge and their acceptance is probably the reason that we stayed. Because if that wouldn't have been so welcoming, I don't know that we would have stayed and wanted to, contribute. I think, I don't know that I've been the best in doing that for people, but what I see when newcomers come into the park is the monarch comes and takes a person and says, hey, this is a sword, this is how you fight, these are where you take the hits, this is what you do, as well as accompany them out onto the field and kind of keep an eye on them and watch them and mentor them to make sure that they're safe. There's people in the arts and sciences that say, hey, if you don't have a tunic, I will show you how to make a tunic. And I think that that has really helped me personally grow in after I've been kind of like, hey, I'm kind of part of here and I feel like I'm okay here and I feel safe and comfortable here. So, you know, now what do I do? How can I go forward? I tend to be kind of goal oriented. Not, you know, not everybody is, but I think that there's mentorship that is present. I think there's mentorship maybe we can do better. But the mentorship and what do you want to do in WestMarch and how can I help you do that on whatever level it is, has been a huge thing for me. So I think that's all that I really have to say.
I really appreciate that, Jody. You hit the nail on the head, is what would you like to do and how can we help you do it? I fear that sometimes, hey, you are not a cis male, so go earn your roses, go be prime minister, go make tunics, go make sword covers. Have you experienced that in any capacity, or do you feel that we encourage individuals to do exactly what you just said, is where do you want to be? We will help you get there.
I don't have a lot of experience being a cis male.
Ha! My apologies. I'm bad at phrasing stuff.
It's totally fine. I guess I gravitate towards the people that have what I want. If I want to sew better, I will kind of watch and see who I think does a good job, you know, and then I have to get the courage to go ask them to help me. I'm not really sure how to answer that other than what I already said.
I think we're fine then. Rose wants to speak next, so we'll go with Tirza, if that's okay.
So I feel like I have a little bit of a different perspective than most of the females who come out, which is sometimes problematic because I don't really know how to help with arts and science stuff as much because I'm not really as interested in it. So that is always difficult on my end because I'm like, people want to know how to make things. I don't know how to do that. I got into Amtgard because I was at a Renaissance fair and saw Andy shooting people, and I wanted to shoot people too. So that was the most interesting part of Amtgard for me, was absolutely the fighting aspect, which as an officer, I've struggled with trying to figure out how to do activities for people who aren't as interested in the fighting, which I do feel like sometimes I get kind of expected to do, and then I'm like, that's not my strong point though. I can come up with stuff eventually, but I'm not hugely good at thinking about what people who don't want to go fight would want to do, if that makes sense. For my local park, I've never really had too much of a hard time. When I fight people, I haven't experienced a lot of people treating me different from the males when fighting and stuff. At events is a different thing entirely. I've gone to a lot of events, not a huge amount, but a lot. And something that I've experienced at there is when you're at the ditch field, you know, you accidentally hit someone in the face and like they'll go off on you and be like, ah, stupid girls hitting people in the face or whatever. And I'm like, dude, you've hit 3 people in the face while I've been standing here. You know, like everybody misses occasionally. Cool down, whatever. I've noticed that like at a lot of events, people they'll either get upset that you won, or if you don't do well, they'll be like, ah, yeah, but it's a girl, you know. I think probably the worst one was I was in a tournament once and I was fighting someone, and some of the guys in the background were heckling the guy I was fighting and saying stuff like, oh, you better not lose to her. She's a girl, but you also, you know, it's okay if you let her win. And that wasn't cool because, of course, then if I win, it's just because he let me. And if I lose, it's just because I'm female, right? So that kind of stuff really sucks. And it kind of sucked that during that tournament, nobody really called the guys who were yelling that out, you know, and were like, hey, that's not cool. You know, I don't feel like that would have been acceptable if they'd been like, you know, hey, he's Asian, so if you beat him, you know, it's just because he's short. You know, it's not the same thing, but I'm just saying, like, sometimes with gender type of stuff, people are less willing to step up and be like, hey, that's a mean thing to say, you know. But most of my experience with Amtgard has been really positive. You know, I feel really like the people at my park listen to me. I'm also a very pushy person though, so I'm not sure I give them too much of a choice the other direction. But yeah.
Not everybody is a pushy individual, and that crosses all lines, obviously. And so, Rose, you've had a lot of success. Other individuals like Megan have had a lot of success, and Titan, but there are individuals who are not type A personalities. There are individuals who are not confident individuals, and it's how we find a way to successfully incorporate those. And we've had a lot of wonderful conversation. Before we move on to the next topic, I do not want to close this early. Does anybody want to talk about diversity and inclusion in regards to WestMarch?
I actually want to go back just a little bit and ask a question, especially from like Jamie, who made a lot of comments. I'd like to know, what could we do? Like, you talked a lot about speaking up and trying to make a difference as the people in power. What do we talk about? What needs to be pushed? What, like, I'm on the wrong side of the fence to see it clearly. What needs to be said?
That was for me, right? Sorry, I was reconnecting.
All good.
Um,
Did you hear it all though?
you were asking what needs to be done or what needs to be said as a cis white man, like how
Yeah, I mean,
you be
basically.
a good ally. Well, I think Scorch touched on that a little bit with not speaking over, but encouraging, or like, so for example, we're at Gathering of Kingdoms and somebody comes up to me and they are trying to tell me that I know nothing about archery. Right?
Okay.
Now you could come in and you could just be like, I know a lot about archery, and save the day, and he'll listen to you. Or you can come in and be like, no, you know, Valen is a paragon archer. She knows what she's talking about. You need to listen to what she's saying. what she is saying is correct. I mean, unless I'm wrong, then absolutely correct me, please. But um,
Her opinion is valuable. Her voice matters.
but
See, I would
trying to
have
get
just,
them to listen to me, and rather than just come in and be like, I mean, granted, another way is like, no, she knows what she's talking about, like having tact about it is really what it comes down to, and making sure that their voices are being heard and you're not speaking over those voices.
If I may piggyback on kind of something Rose was saying, how those guys were heckling her during the tournament, and no one stood up for her. The answer is someone needs to start speaking up for her, and we need to start fostering a culture where it's not only acceptable but normal. So, and one guy starts talking shit, and everyone in the ditch line turns and looks at him and says, "Hey, shut the fuck up." Or
not.
or we could be more diplomatic about it. That's a choice. That's probably the better choice. But additionally, theoretically, what if Rose had gone to the Reeve of that tournament and was like, "Hey, these guys were saying this," and what if hypothetically that Reeve was like, "Oh, well, they're just joking around. Oh, it's just this. It's just like obfuscating the responsibility of these people that said some not cool, shitty things." And then now we are not just letting that stuff slide, but we're encouraging that culture and showing those people that are willing to say those things and treat people lesser that that's the cool thing to do, and we're going to encourage that kind of culture. When someone comes up to you, someone in that hypothetical situation, if someone were to go up to the Reeve and say, "Hey, this thing just happened," or Rose saying, "Hey, this thing happened to me," they're listened to. And then that gets into the weird gray areas of, are we taking this one person's word as gospel over someone else because of whatever their identity is? No, that's not what that means. It means I am going to take you seriously, believe you first, and investigate. And if the facts prove otherwise, act accordingly. But for so long, people of color, women, trans people, queer people, the default assumption is that you're lying for some reason, or you just can't take a joke, or you're going to ruin his reputation. And that's what needs to stop. And the way that you do that is when people that have been historically marginalized one way or another says, "Hey, I'm hurt," you listen.
I believe that was,
Sorry.
no, I was gonna say, I believe that was Baron Scorch speaking, and I appreciate him speaking up. Thank you for that. That's incredibly valid. Rose, go for it.
Although I will say the initial gut reaction of having people just tell the person to fuck off, like, that doesn't sound nice. But if you think about it, like, I'm a player who was highly invested, and that tournament stuck with me and was a negative feeling that I had. If I had been a new player, I might not have come back. I might have quit then and there. I very likely would not have gone to a Reeve, even if I'd known that that was an option, because, most people just aren't going to do that. If they have something unpleasant happen to them, they're not going to go tattletale on the person and, try to stir up a big fuss. They're just going to leave and never come back. And that's how you lose people like that. Things that people are going, "Oh, it's just a joke," but it's not to the person who is the object of the joke.
we have lost individuals because they have come out to the park as a new individual. And this actually is one of the complaints that fueled this conversation, is that individual A comes out to the park, immediately gets hit on by cis males, and has a bad time on the field and never comes back. And instead of creating a culture of care, we create a culture that does not retain individuals who are of different communities than cis males. And that's what we're trying to fix. And Rose, that's such a wonderful example, because good freaking Lord, why didn't anybody speak up about that? Does anybody else want to speak about diversity and inclusion at this point in time, or should we move on to the next topic? There is no rush here. Obviously, the meeting has gone for an hour, but we still have time, of course. Does anybody else want to talk?
I have a small suggestion to chime in. Little bit of a tangent, but I think y'all are see how it applies. Zeus has been discussing a corpora amendment to establish an IT team that isn't elected and just kind of stays and it kind of sort of has full control over the kingdom's website, social media, events, pages, things like that. And if that ends up going through, I think that would be a great place to start focusing some of the recruitment aspects that people have discussed here, and making sure that there's good representation on that IT team, because it definitely sounds like getting people's first impressions of the game, or where somebody who is brand new has just Googled us or saw somebody playing and searched for, the name they saw on the sign, whatever it is, having that first foot in the door be already at a level where they know what to expect and they have a good, strong idea of what they are going into, can at least, at minimum, help with some of that uncomfortability of just, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I'm represented here. The things that people have been talking about here. So I would really suggest and encourage anybody here, or if you know anybody, if we do get that IT team going, really thinking hard about who should be on it and what kind of things you can do with it.
To add to that, the IT team, I think that's a great idea. But I did look at the Amtgard like national website, and you could tell it was made by web designers. It was very nicely laid out and everything like that, but you could also tell it was not designed by people with marketing experience. And again, there was a lot of jargon, so it was very confusing. So I just would maybe not just make it just like a straight IT team, but maybe have some marketing individuals as well, or people that maybe like didn't like grow up with this, who maybe would understand people that don't know a lot of information about this, maybe something like that.
As WestMarch BoD president, I put forth a motion to put Megan Earwicker as the assistant to David Azus for the IT team for WestMarch. Do I have a second?
Sure.
There we go. Congratulations, Megan. You've been conscripted.
Okay.
There isn't even an IT team yet. Let's focus on actually getting the amendments in up and voted for before we get that far.
Quiet, Frankie.
I will
why
say one thing I'm going to throw in the chat right now. This is a different groups. Their website, which I came across because I was trying to find Andy the Amtgarder, and like their website is so much better than ours that I have been considering throwing it on our link tree for people to like get directed to, because they have like picking a class right there with Andy the Amtgarder. rules and classes tools, class level cheat sheets, spellbook apps, garb, tutorials. Like, I wish WestMarch had a thing that looked like this instead of just the message boards, which I do get that the utility of the message boards is valid for some things, but like,
All right, I gotta go in.
documents on it, not good. I would never refer a new player to the WestMarch website because they'd just get confused and be like, why are you directing me to a message board?
I am very vocal about how much I don't like CA Amtgard, the website. It needs a complete revamp. There's so many different groups like the SCA and this website, which we are currently sharing, at least I think I am. This is perfect. This is how it should be. And we don't need to reinvent the wheel. This is great. I don't know why we're not using this. But yeah, and we need to delete the forums. For everybody listening, delete all of the forums. There is nothing there that needs to be retained. We need to move on. Okay.
What about Shark Guitar? I'm kidding.
We love Shark Guitar. All right. Does anybody else, we are in no rush here. Does anybody else want to speak about diversity and inclusion in regards to WestMarch? All right. Do we have a motion to move forward?
Motion.
Wonderful. All right. I do not believe the rest of this is going to take an hour. I think we are at the halfway point, if not more, for the rest of the August agenda. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I hope genuinely that you choose to stick around for the rest of this, but if you have to depart, nobody is going to hate you. This is the second most important thing we need to bring up. Diversity inclusion, we had several complaints. This is the next one, credible threats of violence within WestMarch. We have had 3 separate credible threats or acts of violence within WestMarch very recently. They are being addressed and handled as necessary. They are not going to be brought up here. There is no reason to talk about them. What we are going to do instead is talk about proactive action to prevent credible threats of violence within WestMarch. I am going to share a new form. I want everybody who is on a laptop to please read this document. We'll go through it together because I am going to request approval from the board of directors of WestMarch to release this to every park within WestMarch and basically force feed it to every monarch to force feed it to every member of their park so that everybody reads it so that nobody can pretend to think, oh, I thought it was okay to punch this guy in the face. That's a joke, but you get the idea. I'm going to read this document, and I want everybody to feel very comfortable to say, this is a dumb idea. We don't need to do this. This is written poorly. Anything like that, please speak up. We, the board of directors, wish to formally address recent concerns regarding the safety and well-being of all members. As an inclusive community, we are committed to fostering an environment that promotes mutual respect, understanding, and camaraderie among all individuals who choose to participate in any capacity. Our primary mission is to provide a safe space where individuals can interact and build lasting friendships. Any credible form of violence outside the parameters set forth by the Amtgard rules of play, be it verbal, psychological, physical, or otherwise, undermines the very essence of our community and jeopardizes the safety and comfort of our members. It has come to our attention that more than one instance of potential threats of violence or actual acts of violence against our members has been recently reported. We want to make it unequivocally clear that such behavior is unacceptable and will not be tolerated under any circumstances. Henceforth, we request the immediate implementation of a zero-tolerance policy on acts of violence that fall outside the parameters set forth by the Amtgard rules of play recognized by WestMarch. This policy applies to all members and anyone associated with our organization. I'm going to pause here to simply say, if a barbarian says, I'm going to grind you into bone meal, that is not a credible threat outside of the rules of play. I am going to physically assault you. That sort of thing is what we're talking about here. Please feel free to ask for clarification. I will read the rest quite quickly. Reporting mechanisms. We encourage all members to promptly report any instances of violence or threats that may encounter within the community that falls outside the current rules of play to their local leadership, WestMarch Monarchy, or the board of directors. Anonymity and confidentiality will be respected for those who come forward. Please file reports here. We have a Google Doc. Thorough investigation. All reports of credible threats or acts of violence outside the rules of play will be promptly investigated by the sitting monarchy or their designated representatives, utilizing the WestMarch Code of Conduct and the Amtgard Rules of Play to ascertain the truth of the claims and to ensure fair treatment for all parties involved. Disciplinary measures. Should any member be found guilty of threatening violence or perpetrating violence against any other member outside the accepted rules of play, again, I'm going to grind you into bone meal, I'm a barbarian, appropriate disciplinary actions will be taken, which may include, but are not limited to, suspension, expulsion from affected lands, or WestMarch as a whole. It is of utmost importance that we uphold our values of respect, tolerance, and unity. We ask all members to actively contribute to creating an environment where everyone feels safe, valued, and appreciated. Let this official release serve as a solemn reminder of our collective commitment to maintaining a stress-free, safe, and tolerant community within WestMarch Amtgard. Together, we can build a harmonious space that fosters personal growth and friendship. For any questions, blah, blah, blah. All right. Does anybody have any concerns about potentially releasing that document? It is posted on the WestMarch Discord. So you can go read it right now under the Board of Directors forum in WestMarch Amtgard if you wish. But does anybody have any questions at the moment about that I have just read?
I believe we don't actually have a WestMarch Code of Conduct. We only have the official Rules of Play Code of Conduct, and then a WestMarch Code of Conduct Complaint Handbook, but that doesn't actually contain any Code of Conduct.
The rulebook code of conduct would still be the WestMarch one in that case then. And
The WestMarch.
Andy is also attempting to speak, but I don't think he realizes he's muted, so maybe he should turn his speaker on.
So we actually do have specific penalties for violating mundane laws in the Corpora. It's Article 11. And I mean, my biggest issue with this document is that I don't know that it's within the purview of the board of directors.
We're going to share the document again. And that's the type of feedback we want, Andy. Please keep talking about this.
Like, I feel that if the monarchy of WestMarch put this document out saying the monarchy would like to remind everybody that this is how we need to function, that would be an excellent document, and I feel that that would be a valuable use of their time. We don't have the authority to enforce any of this.
I believe, and please tell me if I'm incorrect, Article X, Section 1, deal with any government or outside agencies, business or organization, or any of the local chapters, subsidiary chapters with regards to contractual obligations. This is where it comes down to dealing with the police. And this is where I had a conversation with the current sitting monarch of WestMarch before this document was crafted, in that the current monarch said that usually the board of directors is who deals with unfortunate legal issues when there is potential acts of violence where outside organizations could be incorporated. So you have much more experience than I do, Andy. I acknowledge that freely. Does that make sense, or is that overreach in your opinion?
So we don't, as a BOD, we don't have any authority to tell lands what to do, except that we have to hold them to their contract, which includes following every bit of the rulebook and every bit of the corpora. We could potentially pull a contract if a land stopped doing that, in that they refused to punish a person or hid something. That would be within our purview. This document feels more like, I mean, what is the zero tolerance policy supposed to do? What are we supposed to do to enforce that zero tolerance policy? I'd like to hear what action items we're actually looking for.
Certainly, I'm going to share the reporting mechanism. Well, no, I'm not, because the link isn't working. Ugh.
Well, that's fine, but even in that paragraph, you say we encourage all members to promptly report. That's not, I mean, we can't require a person to report things.
Oh, absolutely. The goal here is to submit an action item that the board of directors discussed, and we want to disseminate the proper information on that. We have a zero tolerance policy on credible acts of violence. Here is how to report it, and here is the WestMarch Code of Conduct and the Amtgard Rules of Play that we all need to be following. There isn't a mandate here. Unfortunately, we can't. That's why I say we request the immediate implementation of a zero tolerance policy, and this is going to be presented to the WestMarch monarchy.
Okay, that may have been where I was missing it, because the way I was reading it, I thought that this was a general letter to the general populace.
This is a general letter. This is supposed to be an open letter to the WestMarch monarchy and all members. We cannot create laws, of course, but through this statement, I just want, and I want to acknowledge that perhaps we are overreaching with this. I do. But by using we request and we encourage, I just want to get out the information that when you have three separate unfortunate complaints about credible threats of violence, something should be done. And so I wrote this up in hopes that we could do something. And this is, I think, the most we can do.
As a note, I'm not arguing anything anymore, I feel that a thing that we could do is get a corpora change to include verbiage for what to do if somebody does make a credible verbal threat, because while that is prohibited by the Amtgard Rules of Play and the Code of Conduct there, it's not actually specifically mentioned in the mundane laws or the section Article 11 to deal with mundane laws. And that might be a valuable thing to be codified within our corpora along with the rules of play, just to assign, hey, this is actually serious and this should be the penalties associated with doing so.
Well, under the WestMarch BoD August agenda, we are going to be talking about a corpora task force, which does exist already, and we will be working on. There is going to be some very serious revamping to the WestMarch corpora. Will that be tomorrow? Absolutely not. Is it something that is coming? We certainly hope so soon. But it is not today, obviously. What can we do with this document? Is this something, Scoot, that you could find a pathway to support releasing, or do you feel it's DOA and does not need to be submitted?
I feel like we can submit it, just I don't know that it's a productive document in some ways. That's my real feeling. Like,
no, that's good.
We're not going and enforcing anything. We're not going and requiring anybody to do anything. We're not dealing with the mundane running of the nonprofit organization. We're just saying, hey, we think this should be a thing.
Yep.
Which absolutely should.
It's increasing awareness, and it is hopefully spreading knowledge on how to quell these unfortunate situations. But yes, it is mildly outside the scope of our it's mildly outside the scope of our main priority. Eric, you have something to say? You don't need to raise your hand, just talk.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things about like enforceability, it doesn't have to be an bar law if it's like a California state law. You're not allowed to make threats of violence against someone. And our group couldn't waive that right. So the state laws supersede our bylaws anyways. And so, you know, we could report to authorities if there is a real credible source of violence that's against the law, or we could remove them from our activity or give them probation or something. So there could be consequences. I'm not sure that, like, you don't need to write in, you can't kill somebody because that's against the law. So things that are covered by state law don't necessarily need to be covered specifically by our bylaws for us to be able to enforce something. That's just kind of my understanding.
That's a very valid way to look at it. Megan Earwicker says, is it going to be easy to find for members? We have a document site on CA Amtgard, but as I've mentioned before, CA Amtgard has a lot of work that needs to be done. We also have an Amt Wiki, where we do have a WestMarch BoD Amp Wiki page where I post everything that I think is of value. But again, we do have an issue with disseminating information. Cindy says, I need to drop off, but I think it would be a good document if the monarchy can support and release it as a reminder to its members. So perhaps we should submit this document to the monarchy and let them choose to submit it. And we can even just take out the fact that it's a BoD document and just make it a monarchy document. If we submit it with a rewrite to say it's a monarchy document, would that be better in your opinion, Andy?
It would. I would actually very much support that.
All right. Well, then I'm going to put right here in the notes, the mentions of the meeting, we need to make this a monarchy document. Paul Wilkins, thank you very much for joining us. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing okay. I apologize. I fucked up the date. I'm under a lot of pressure to lose weight, so I'm going to the gym every day.
Well, Paul is currently cosplaying his alter ego, Big Swole McHuge Large. So good for you. I think that's amazing. Paul, as somebody who is an authorized representative for Dame, I believe she goes by Dame, and I could be wrong, Monarch Kaya, would you be comfortable if I sent you a document earlier on Facebook? I'll send it again. Now, please review it if acceptable, and go over it with Kaya at your convenience. No rush. We're trying to do a zero tolerance policy for credible threats of violence against members of Amtgard. And basically just in short saying we are going to ban hammer anybody that steps outside the rules of play and the code of conduct. That's what we're trying to do. Something that simplistic.
So you want to do this? Do you want to encourage the monarchy to do this, or is the BoD trying to do this with the monarchy?
Well, I'm going to, are you on mobile or are you on a computer? Oh, okay, perfect. Can you see, let's see here. I'm going to share this document one more time. Did I close it? Oh my God, I did. Let's be a couple seconds. I apologize, everybody. Okay. Share this screen. Oh my God, come on. Goodness gracious. Sorry, everyone. Everybody's seeing Paul at the moment, right? Okay. Paul, this is the document right here. It's zero tolerance policy on unacceptable violence within WestMarch or credible threats of violence. And I had written this as we, the board of directors. Andy is requesting that we change it to we, the monarchy of WestMarch, as opposed to the board of directors. I've sent you this copy, which is a working copy, so you can look through it. I will rewrite it to basically have it come from a tone of WestMarch in general, as opposed to the board of directors, because that could potentially be outside the scope of our purview. Does that make sense? That is a very brief rundown, obviously.
So I get some of the arguments why it would be outside of the parameters of the BoD, but I'm not convinced that it's all the way out of the parameters of the BoD. I think it could totally be the monarchy and the board of directors, because we do adjudicate all temporal legal matters, and this is a legal thing.
I agree with that. Andy, would you be okay if it was a collaborative effort? Because I want to take into account everybody's concerns.
Sure.
Perfect. There we go. As long as it's released by the board of, as long as it's released by the monarchy, then we can wipe our hands of it and be like, yeah, the board of directors agrees with this. So there, everybody's happy. Wonderful. So I will rewrite this. I will get it in the hands of the monarchy and let them choose if they wish to disseminate it. Is that acceptable to everybody on the call?
Sounds great.
Wonderful. Jose, are you here?
Yes.
Do we have an update on the bilingual flyer and or waiver?
None yet. Not right now.
That's okay. That's completely fine. For the WestMarch annual budget, for the people that are on the call, I have a couple questions for you. The web hosting, do we host anything besides CA Amtgard? Do we pay money for anything besides CA Amtgard?
Not that I'm aware of.
For everybody else on the call that's not normally here, all of these other agenda items are going to go real quick.
Do we pay for the YouTube channel at all, or for any Zoom services or stuff like that?
Do we pay for the YouTube channel? Does anybody know that at all?
I don't believe so, but I can look in the bank account and see if we paid them.
Thank you. Please get that to me because I am working on a WestMarch annual budget. The last budget that we had was from 2019-2020, and it actually had some unfortunately inaccurate information, so it is being rewritten. I'll go ahead and share the current budget. This is a work in progress. Do not be like, wow, Brian, you do terrible stuff. Why is it not sharing? Why?
Wow, Brian, usually terrible stuff.
That's true, I do. You should see me on my Sunday nights at improv. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're working on it. Thank you. It's a work in progress. There's just a lot of things that we need to make some mild adjustments to. Okay. Sorry for that. Do we still pay for a PO box, and where is it hosted?
It should be a not an actual PO box, but a online version-y thing now.
Yeah, we
Either
basically
way.
played.
I know I'm not on the BoD, but I closed the PO box out last year.
Thank you, Jody. You
We
might as
don't
well
have-
be.
Yeah, we don't have a POB box anymore.
Do we pay for anything that is a PO box type replacement? Because
Zero.
as a nonprofit, we need that.
No, we don't. I believe it was all transferred to digital. And when I closed it out, I handed that off to Clanaw. And yeah, we don't have a physical PO box anymore. And I don't
Thank
know what
you.
happened to it after that.
I'm so glad you're here, Jody. That's huge. Okay, Google storage. Who is in charge of the Google storage that we pay for? Yeah, that's what I thought. That's okay.
Is Cindy aware of it?
Cindy unfortunately had to drop off. Cindy is paying for it, but we don't know who is currently utilizing it. I believe it's the monarchy, but we need.
No, the monarchy does use the Google Drive, because all I know from my various Amtgard experiences that is where all the information for current and past complaints is stored.
Cool. Well, we've got 3 more to add to it. Is there anything else that we aren't paying for at the moment, that we are paying for at the moment, that I don't know about? We have the spring mid-rain feast, the fall mid-rain feast, the fall coronation feast, the coronation scrolls, the Dark Shore event site fee, and the Feast of the Gods site fee. Is there anything else that we don't know? Obviously, there's the Amtgard International annual payment of $500. Is there anything else that, like, hey, we also pay for this?
I believe we have to pay every year or every other year to register with the state.
Thank you for that. Under my SI 100 SOP, you do not have to pay anything. We were paying $25 a year. We do not have to do that.
Cool.
So for anybody, go to the WestMarch BoD AMP Wiki. There is a SOP on how to do the taxes. You do not have to pay a penny. All you got to do is just screenshot. Paying money means that you get a copy of what you just submitted online in the mail. We don't need that. All right. Do we have a motion to move on to the next agenda item? Anybody speak up?
Yes.
Thank you. For everybody listening and for everybody watching, I need a scribe. I want somebody who wants to do a newsletter and wants to work with me, even if it's just simply in name only. If you're interested in being a scribe for WestMarch, please contact me. I would appreciate it very much. If somebody has someone in their belted family who wants to be a scribe and wants to take charge of nominating and managing the scribe position for WestMarch, fine. Please, for the love of gods, take it out of my hands. Speaking of gods, can we move on to the next topic?
Very quickly.
Yes.
My man-at-arms Porkins might be interested. Also, does Scribe still fall under KPM? And if so, you should cooperate with Cindy.
Cindy was kind enough to find and nominate a scribe. That scribe has been invisible for 3 months, unfortunately. And so therefore, unfortunately, we are going to seek to replace them. Paul, if you want to get Porkins involved to be a scribe, please have them.
Pork chop is different than Porkins.
Oh, I thought I heard Porkins. Sorry.
It's okay. They both start with Pork.
I was very surprised that Porkins was apparently under you, because that wasn't how I expected that relationship.
No, me and Porkins are peers.
Perfect.
Just FYI, Corpora says scribe is its own position. If it is vacant, it falls to the PM. However, there is nothing that the PM has over them, so it can fully be its own position.
Oh, okay. So the scribe is not appointed by the PM, doesn't serve at their pleasure.
I think that's how we nominated it. But yeah.
Not to correct Dagger, but the Prime Minister may appoint and dismiss the scribe at will. Section 10, Item 4.
God, our Corpora is so stupid.
Of Article 4.
We are going to be rewriting the Corpora. It's going to take probably a friggin' year, but it's going to be.
Oh, I actually already have a rewrite that I did 4 months ago that's been waiting to get voted on that cleans up a lot of it. And that's one of the things that Zeus is waiting on so that he can put his IT team thing in.
Dagger, what part of the world are you in?
I'm up in Santa Rosa, up around San Francisco.
I'm going to fly to the city. We're going to go to the Cat Cafe, and we're going to go over this together. I'm excited.
Okay.
You think I'm joking. All right. So Scribe, we've got some potential interest in Scribe. I'm very excited about that. Feast of the Gods promotion. The Feast of the Gods is coming up. Right now, you can go online and buy tickets. You could not do this in early or mid-July. You can now. For everybody listening to this, please, for the love of Pete, there is no reason to go to Great Western War. Go to Feast of the Gods instead.
I am considering going to Feast of Gods.
I think you should, because I'm going to Great Western War, and so you need to take my spot. What I think is really neat about Feast of the Gods is that the pricing has been, and an individual named Megan brought this up earlier, pricing for events needs to be kept low, and the Feast of the Gods pricing is very low, and they are diversifying beyond what has been experienced in the past. There's a couple surprises. If you're not considering going to the Feast of the Gods, go to the Feast of the Gods website. I will make sure it is posted on the WestMarch Facebook page so you can look at it. It's pretty interesting. And the individual...
Did you get that I was joking because my knighting is at Feast of the Gods?
Oh, goodness gracious. I forgot about that. No, there's been so much going on. We have up, I believe it's 5 knightings at Feast of the Gods. Is that right, Paul?
Yeah, so Dratz is going to have a battlefield knighting on Saturday. Deimos is having a very quick crown knighting, and then it's me and Halaver.
That's freaking huge. I mean, to see that many knightings for starters is great. And I'm so glad that, you know, all the Southern Knights are being included in this. Wait, never mind. Sorry. But, you know, it's okay. All right. So seriously, check out Feast of the Gods. The next topic is the Kapora Task Force. There is a Kapora committee. Dagger, thank you for mentioning this already, but if you have something that you would like to do with the Kapora, please feel free, if you want, to loop me in on it, because I am going to talk with members of the monarchy to get a massive all thing put together to get things passed. We want to do, instead of 3 separate all things over the span of August, September, and December, we want to be like, here's one massive freaking all thing with everything in it. So that was a discussion that I was lucky enough to have with a member of the monarchy. So Frankie, if you haven't had a conversation recently about that, please feel free to loop me in. Let's see.
I wouldn't mind being involved with that conversation.
Well, you are the assigned representative for our monarch, so yes. Paul, hit me up on Facebook if you want. I'd love to trade mobile numbers with you to have a conversation offline about this, because we do need to put together a pretty large all thing. Frankie posted WestMarch Feast of Gods in the chat. Please visit it. And thank you, Rose, for posting the CA Amtgard documents are indeed not easy to find. We are working on that. Benjamin, thank you for being a part of this meeting. The COC review and update, we had this brought up a little bit earlier. Mobile, how European of you. I'm Canadian. The COC Code of Conduct review and update, we need to work on that as well. Does anybody, because of time, if anybody is interested in working on a Code of Conduct rewrite for WestMarch, which is the WestMarch complaint form, if you're interested in rewriting it, please PM me. I'm putting together a task force for a rewrite. We should change the Kapora Feast of Mars to Feast of Gods, if not already. That is absolutely the type of changes we need to do. I hope that Frankie has had that as part of his Kapora rewrite. All right, here's an actual conversation I'd like to have. There's been a lot of conversation and chatter about a monarchy test. What should be included in a WestMarch monarchy test?
So I can give you the background to where this question came from.
Yes.
So a complaint was submitted. The monarch recused themselves because they were closely involved. The regent took the lead on the case and had never heard of this COC document, and so did not reference it and reached a wildly crazy conclusion. And then so they had to, the monarch pieced through that and like reassembled a new process so it would be fair to all of us. And so that is what brought the question of how do we ensure incoming monarchs are at least aware that a COC document exists.
as we've kind of talked about through this entire meeting, that's the big issue, unfortunately, is there is a poor dissemination of data in WestMarch, and we are all working to resolve that. Every person here has been a positive member, and I appreciate that very much.
I still maintain that the best thing to do would be to include it in the Kapora. The monarch is supposed to read the Kapora, is supposed to know what's in the Kapora, and if something happens, the Kapora is the document that people would go to look at what the rules are for what is going to happen, at which case, if you have it referenced in the Kapora, and even possibly moving anything that's so important that we want them to know about it, like if there is a process of steps that must be followed, that should be in the Kapora so that the monarch isn't having to look for, a whole bunch of different places to find resources. The Kapora should point out anything that is specifically important we want the monarch to know.
So I think there should be a document separate from the Kapora because it would make the Kapora huge, or it would make the document useless. But I do agree.
I'm not saying include everything in the handbook in the Kapora, but like if there is a table of steps we want followed, that should be included. And then if there's supposed to be a reference to the handbook, that is the place it should be so that anyone can find it.
Yeah, I talked to the Queen about that option. We could even try to put through a Kapora amendment that specified that Kapora tests include questions about certain sections. If we could find like a
Frankie, does your Kapora rewrite include something about the code of conduct or the handbook that they're talking about?
No, it makes no major changes other than some things that are straight up contradictions or like obviously wrong in our current Kapora.
I appreciate that very much. There's a lot of misspellings in the current Kapora, and that was a very easy thing to go for, and I'm glad that somebody did. I am going to high five you with all the highest of fives. I think a section that very simply says, if there are issues, this is the document to use, this is how you use it, and this is why we use it. We definitely don't need to put the whole document there to make it huge, as to Paul's point, but yes, some type of reference may be very smart and still keep the Kapora streamlined.
Also, seeing as the COC guidelines are mostly set forth in the rule book, I don't really understand why we don't get tested on those when we're being tested on the rule book. Officers knowing what the COC guidelines are seems kind of more important to me than them knowing what frozen is or how long spell balls affect you as opposed to, verbal magic. For actually running your land, knowing what what behaviors specified in the rule book are no behaviors seems kind of like a logical thing.
I agree completely. I think the Kapora the all thing that had the test is something that needs to be done. It just needs to be adequately created before it's approved. And I think the next all thing it's on, it's going to pass with flying colors, obviously. But yeah, the WestMarch official complaint handbook, thank you, Scorch, for posting it, is something that we need to not only update, but we need to also make it easily accessible with a pathway for approval.
If I could interject really quick.
Do it.
That handbook I just dropped is on Amtgard.com right now.
Yes.
But if people don't know that it exists, where to find it, that's a problem.
It is a problem.
And that's where Kaya said that, hey, we need to have some type of acknowledgement or a test in some capacity. And it's a great idea. We just need to find a way to adequately implement it.
To be fair, there are a large number of Amtgarders in WestMarch who do not realize CA Amtgard exists, which makes it problematic for just having stuff on there because nobody knows about it.
Can I introduce a broader question?
Yes.
I think what we need to do in WestMarch is consider how to create institutional memory. I don't know if this needs to be an advisory position for with a long term in office, or what. Someone like Deimos or Zeus that really knows what's going on, that is just the designated person that can be asked. I'm just throwing things out there. I think we need to create institutional memory somehow. I'm just not sure how to do that. I think
we need an SOP for every position. We need an operating procedure for everything. How to be a regent, how to be a prime minister, how to be a monarch, and this is what you read.
I do agree, but then we also need to make sure that there's systems that ensure that SOPs follow.
I'm sharing the WestMarch BoD AMP wiki page, and just as a rough example, how to be an autocrat is right here. How to do taxes is right here. And so this is not done. This is a work in progress for all the BoD, but this is where everything is going to be. There should be a how to be an autocrat. There should be a how to be a regent. There should be how to be a prime minister. And those step-by-step documents should show, I apologize, it should show how to do that stuff to create that institutional memory you're talking about.
Having a person that you have to go to is worse than having a website that nobody knows about, because at that point, if they get busy, people will not get responses.
I don't think it's a person you have to go to. I think it would be a person you can go to.
And then if they're super busy and life comes up and makes it so if they don't respond, then all of the stuff goes away.
I like Deimos and Zeus, I can get a hold of them usually within 24 hours on just about anything.
Okay, can Bremen's Fortress's new monarch get a hold of them 24 hours? I'm just saying.
I was definitely discussing a reference for the kingdom monarchy to help create institutional memory, not someone that can be bugged by every single member of every single monarchy in our land. That I don't think anybody would want that job.
I'm just saying it would be better to have the memory physically collected somewhere so that everyone can get it instead of relying on a person.
The problem is we have a SOP document and it's in a location that almost anybody can find, and yet it was not able to be found.
Part of that is because the website is so finicky, nobody uses it.
Ita, you're cutting in and out.
Oh, sorry. We can design the world's perfect SOP. If people don't reference it, then we've wasted our time.
Yeah, and that's the problem, is we need to find a pathway to make sure that people know that these SOPs exist. And how is that going to work? I don't know, but we can at least create them. And when we create them, dissemination can be the second step.
Hey, Ita, I was gonna share too. I don't think you were in the meeting yet when I was talking about it, but I was telling everyone else, Zeus actually has a corpora amendment that he's waiting to submit that will create an IT team that won't be elected and will be kind of a long-term group who will handle things like CA Amtgard, our social media, events pages, things like that. That a little bit sounds like some of the aspects you're talking about, trying to have this institutionalized knowledge. So Zeus definitely have some ideas about that already.
Yeah, that's definitely a tool in that direction.
I mean, that sounds like a adequate solution to me. If there's a group of people whose entire job is to disseminate the information and make it accessible, I think they do a lot better than one individual who then will be depending on them.
I was just brainstorming. We don't have to go over this one idea forever.
Well, it is good information, and unfortunately, we've had people in the past, like Fix, who have unfortunately gotten burnt out, and I can't remember the gentleman's name before Fix. I should. It was Grixis.
It was Grix, yeah.
Yeah, Grix, who got also, when you get burnt out, you get burnt out.
Well, Grix moved to a whole nother kingdom and was still ended up being responsible for our website for like a while.
Yeah. Well, creating a team can help with that because just like I
that's a great idea.
Yeah, just like I suggested with the board of directors, if you don't want to be a part of the board anymore, find somebody else who's motivated to take your spot. You can do that with another team. Would we like to move on from the monarchy test? Does anybody want to put forth a motion to adjourning the August meeting for now? We are at the 2-hour mark, and I want to provide everybody an opportunity to step away if they wish.
I would like to talk about one more thing before we go.
Let's hear it.
Has anyone seen any of the tournament results from Dark Shore posted anywhere?
No.
As a kingdom level event, they are supposed to submit the tournament results. If that's not happening, that's kind of a problem, as a kingdom level event has kingdom level possibility of awards. They had a 7 and over tournament from my understanding, as well as a 6 and under tournament, and those should be posted somewhere, so that people can see what people from their land got, even if they're outside of our kingdom. If they came to the event, those tournament results should be posted.
I do agree with you. I don't believe that's under the purview of the BoD. That is a monarchy situation.
It is our job to audit events and make sure that they are following the Kapora. That is a Kapora item. It specifically says to be a kingdom level event, you must submit the fighting tournament results. I know, because I pushed for that part of the Kapora amendment to be put in, so.
Raven put in chat that she will reach out to Atlantis.
Additionally, I think that this is another good example as to why this IT team would be a good idea.
Thank you for that, Rose. Anything that falls under the purview of the BoD, I absolutely want to do. And Jody, I hate that we keep pulling you and making you do stuff. You're just so good at it. It's your fault. So the Paragon rules was submitted by somebody on the Paragon committee. I submitted to them a rewrite. They said they were going to take it back to the Paragon committee. I am not a member of the Paragon committee. I don't know what's going on. But once we receive
I can check to ascertain their progress. That's who submitted it to, I'm sure.
I submitted it to I believe Christian's significant other.
Ben.
Yeah, Ben Prouty, Caliban.
Yes, I think so. Clalaban.
Caliban.
Caliban. Milan Caliban.
My apologies. Calaton.
It's okay.
Yes, he posted. I'm in the Circle of Paragons and the Facebook group for it, and he did post yesterday that it looks like he says the bylaws are submitted and waiting to be voted on. So did you send a rewrite since yesterday, or was that earlier?
I sent the rewrite to him. If he identifies as him, I apologize. On July 26th. And I have not heard back.
The last thing he said was that they are submitted and will be voted on today. So there may be some
great
confusion happening.
That's okay. That means we will receive, hopefully, the Paragon rules for review for the September BoD meeting. I'll
check in with them.
Thank you very much. On the WestMarch BoD Discord, there is the rewrite that I put up. Okay, There was a request by the WestMarch Monarchy to update the waiver. Why does our waiver not have pronouns and preferred name? Because of recent events that do tie in with the credible threats of violence within WestMarch, we need to consider updating the waiver to add pronouns and preferred name. Does anybody want to work on updating the waiver so I don't have to do it?
Let me talk to our BoD alternate and see if they're if look over the language of it.
Awesome. It's just adding 2 boxes. There is first name and persona name. So what we want to do is add 2 more boxes, which is pronouns and preferred name. You could put it as nickname. I don't know. But that is something we want to add.
So you want to ask legal name, preferred name, and then persona name?
Yeah, I think so. And then there was also a request by and I say Lady Kaya, I don't know her title, by Kaya to add pronouns as well.
Saint Kaya.
Saint, thank you, Scorch. I appreciate the fact that you pay attention because Lord knows I don't. Yeah, so Saint Kaya requested that we add pronouns and preferred name to the waiver. I thought that was a very good idea. Let's talk to Victoria to get the nitty-gritty on what we need to do before we update the waiver. There was a request for more info for digital waivers before it is approved, and funding isn't available to pay for digital waivers until September. It turns out that the digital waivers, the one that Rose suggested, does allow for the person filling out the waiver to take a picture of their ID and upload it into the system, which is freaking great. So I'm going to screen share the waiver right now. Give me a second. Where is it? Did I close the screen? I probably closed the screen. Oh my God, I closed the screen.
I believe in you.
Here. You don't get to see it. You've all seen the waiver before. You've all signed it. At the bottom of the waiver, it says, I am the representative that checked the identification to make sure that it matches the information filled out by the participant. So with digital waivers, we need to make sure that the individual that fills out the waiver uploads a picture of their driver's license or passport or other ID or a parent's ID.
We still just see your notes there, bud.
Yeah, fine. I'll pull up the waiver. Get all of you. Dun, dun, dun. Here it is. All right. So down here, we have first name, persona name, and last name, and then username, which might be changed by the org. We want to add 2 lines here, one that says pronouns and one that says preferred name. There is a term that I am not very familiar with, and I don't want to speak to it adequately. Scorch, can you help me out here on using preferred name versus dead name?
The way that Ita stated it, legal name and preferred name, that's a decent way to phrase it so that you still have your legal basis covered, but it's still respectful to their trans identities.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I apologize for having to ask. But here is the thing at the bottom with the digital waivers. We need to replicate this section. Age range.
You moved it to WestMarch annual budget.
Oh my zogs. Listen, you're going to deal with the WestMarch annual budget. You're going to like it. Okay. All right. So we want first name, preferred name. We have first name, preferred name, pronouns, last name, and then persona name, which would be your Amtgard name. On the digital waiver, we need to replicate age range, ID, and representative that confirmed and accepted the document. The good news is I emailed Smart Waiver and got a response that said, yes, you can take a picture and upload ID type with every one of the packages we were considering. So the price doesn't change, nothing changes, and we just need to make sure that we're checking IDs just as much as we check IDs now. Ha ha ha. Paul says, I died. So there we go. Paul is dead. Long live Paul.
That's rough.
It is. Right before his knighting as well. That's sad.
I was just gonna say that, yeah.
All right, so the short answer is that we absolutely can replicate the digital waiver with the paper waiver and have the same level of security and eligibility. We expect to have an all thing in September to approve moving to digital waivers and trademarking the WestMarch logo. That is all I have for the August Board of Directors meeting. I will acknowledge freely I'm getting tired. Does anybody have anything else they want to talk about that we haven't discussed?
For the digital waiver, instead of having the parent fill out a waiver, the child fill out the waiver, could we move to having the parent fill out the waiver and just list all the child that they're signing for? Would save a little bit of time and also make it simpler.
So like if there's a family of 4.
Yeah, instead of having like one line where they maybe fill it out, which I think is at least how the other ones were, you know, having a these are the people I am signing for section. And if they're not signing for other people, you know, they don't fill in those 4 lines. If they are filling in for, you know, 4 kids, then they have 4 spaces to just list child name 1, child name 2, child name 3, child name 4.
The beauty of Smart Waiver is that we can make our own waivers, and we can make a waiver specifically for legal guardians to fill out and have the name of 3 individuals that they could potentially add. I think that's a brilliant idea. And once we activate our Smart Waiver account, those are waivers that we will create.
Okay.
So we're going to have, I am over 18, I am an adult waiver, and I am signing myself and my child, or I am only signing my child, and then have all of those forms hopefully in multilingual options.
Yay.
I want to do that. Yay. Okay. In the chat, we have offense is misspelled. Fine. I don't know where offense is.
I think it's meant to be offense.
I don't know where it is. We'll see here. Is it here?
Raven, could you just say specifically what you're talking about?
Let's see. Oh, I said something here. Sexual offense. Oh, goodness. Is that in the waiver? Is offense spelled wrong in the waiver? I'm taking a look right now.
That is indeed what Raven is saying.
Yeah.
Rough.
Oh, it totally is. Well, we need to rewrite the waiver anyways. I'm not going to screen share that because I don't want to post more about unfortunate stuff like that. Rough. All right, so we need to, I'll just put, we need to fix misspellings. Like Jody suggested, Lady Raven. Here we go.
Raven with a Y.
Wait, Raven with a Y, sorry. Raviny.
And I think it's damn.
Perfect.
Oh, that's right. Damn. Raven. There we go.
You're mistitling everybody, but it's okay because it's a BoD meeting, so really it's more real names.
Like
Sorry.
gotta have some levity here, man.
Sorry, Dame Jody. Is that better?
Probably.
Perfect.
I appreciate your enthusiasm.
Well, there we go. Eric, that is a top-notch beard. Good for you. I'm gonna pull this off. I'm gonna stop sharing. So Eric, I'm taking you off mute. Say something.
Yeah, I didn't even know my camera was on. I didn't know you could see my beautiful beard.
We can
Hope you
definitely
just
see.
didn't watch me eat tacos.
You need to braid that action.
I do a little bit, but it looks kind of bad when it's braided down here and all the side fluff is out. So I got to find something to do with my side fluff when I braid the bottom part.
Beard oil and brush it.
All right, I can handle that. Thank you.
Do a French braid and include the sides.
Yeah, I'm not as good at braiding as I should be with all the practice I have, but I will continue to work on that.
Okay, would anyone else like to order Magneto on how to do his hair?
We need beads, we need glitter, we need bows, we need.
If I could just learn to fix my bald spot, that'd be all right.
Just cut off some of the beard and glue it to the bald spot. I'm sure that'll
What
work
I'm
with no
hearing
issues
is
whatsoever.
we need to have an arts and sciences night where we all get together and decide what the best way is to braid Eric's beard.
All right. On the other hand, do we have any more BoD business to discuss?
Hey, this is vital BoD business. The state of Eric's beard is the most important issue in the kingdom.
I think we need to discuss what the liaison thinks about the outside perspective of Eric's beard and its effects upon our group. And Paul's not here. All right. Do we have a motion to end this meeting for
I move to adjourn this. Wait, we need to schedule the next one.
So close. So close.
I know, but
If you don't schedule the next meeting, then it can't happen. That's how that
you know
works,
what? That's a valid point. I withdraw my motion.
I say September 19th, 2023 at 6 p.m. It's a Tuesday.
I'm generally available on Tuesdays.
I should be available on the 19th.
All right. The good news is we can change this. For anybody listening to this message, and you know I'm all going to email you and post everything everywhere. If it doesn't work, we've got over a month to change this date. Ça va?
I mean, what if we did the 26th to make it even later?
We most certainly can, but that's going to handicap our October, and we definitely don't want to have a BoD meeting close to Halloween.
Well, that's true. 19th.
What if you just have it on the 32nd?
We have a motion from Baron Scorch to put the meeting on September 32nd and February 28th. Sorry,
Luckily,
29th.
Baron Scorch is not eligible to make motions.
I motion that we have it on the 32nd of every month.
All right. Does anybody have a second for Tuesday, September 19th at 6 p.m.?
Second.
No lo contendré.
Porque no los dos. All right. Do we have an adjournment for this meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank God. All right. I love you all. I really mean that. You guys are great. The fact that you stuck through this for 2 hours, we had a lot to go over. This is one of the more important BoD meetings that we have had.